What is up, America? This is Circus Tunes, and welcome to the circus. So, tonight, I want to give you guys a video on my personal tips on screenwriting and storytelling in regards to that in general. And I have a book right here that I have been reading on and off, and I've read it 2 or 3 times now. So here are my personal tips on screenwriting and the stories having to do with it, or stories in general. So I'm going to start by saying there's 3 acts, or typically, if you want to go by the typical way of writing a screenplay, there's 3 acts, right? First act is the setup, and not only is it the setup of characters and how they normally live, but it's also the setup of the emotions regarding the goal. I have seen and heard so much people mess up on this. I have seen so much people mess up on this part. The emotions from my experience of writing, because I have 2 screenplays printed out for 2 episodes that I have of my adult comedy cartoon. Something kind of like The Simpsons, but it's my own. I don't only have 2 screenplays printed out, but I have a lot more written than that. It's not just those 2. I have about 12 or 13, give or take. Not all of them are good. Not all of them are the best scripts in the world, and I know that. I'm not oblivious to that. But it was just something to get me started. You have to start somewhere, and if you fear failure, you'll never accomplish anything. Act 1. For me personally, yes, you want to establish your characters. You want to establish your characters like normal everyday life, but you want to establish the emotions of the goal, because the emotions, personally to me and my experience of writing, is where all the natural twists and turns of your story are going to come from. Because to me, when the twists and turns are simply only coming out of the idea of the writer literally going, okay, well, somehow, some way we have to get this action description, and the words in this action description, we have to lead this into some twist or turn, instead of letting the emotions take it there, which that's what I do. Once you get into your characters and the emotions of the characters and the emotions of like how they feel about the goals and everything like that, and their feelings of wanting to get there or wanting to attain it. Once you get into the feelings of that, once you get immersed into that, that's when you can start gradually leading it there. But to me, a lot of the forced twists and turns of the stories come out of people not basing the twists and turns on emotions. They base it just on words, like the words of the script, which is a bad idea. Some really good twists have come out of that, but to me, again, a lot of the twists and turns, or at least the natural good ones, come from the emotions of the story, not the words, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So set up the character, set up the situation, the goal, but also set up the emotions. I cannot stress that enough. Second act is the confrontation. Once you get into the confrontation, what you want to do, what you want to have pretty much already there. By the ending of the first act, you want it to be where you start the character in, like the protagonist, you want to start the protagonist in their struggles, the obstacles, someone or something in their way, and they're fighting to get it out of their way. And then by the ending of Act 2 or somewhere close to that, they attain it, but they pay a horrible price. They pay a horrible price for it, which puts them into a state of doubt, which makes them start thinking like, I don't know, sometimes, depending on the story, I don't know if I want this anymore. I don't know. Like, they start doubting it, and then that's when depending on where the emotions are, depending on how it plays out, the audience starts doubting it. And then the conclusion, which this is where people get very, very conflicted, because not all conclusions have to be happy. It doesn't have to have a happily ever after at the ending of it. It doesn't have to have a protagonist character with a trophy in their hand. That's not how all stories need to end. And there are some people out there that try to suggest to other beginner writers that if you don't write your stories with happily ever afters and the character at least attaining their goal, it's a bad story, which is not, that's not true at all. Sometimes you can make it where the conclusion of your story, I mean, it has happened a lot in storytelling. You can make it the point of your story at the end is that, oh, well, it's like the backfire at the end is the ending. Like them not getting it, that is the ending. They didn't get what they want, and they're not always going to get what they want. That's the lesson. That's the ending of it. So there you go. Act 1, set up the emotions. That's pretty much what I recommend or what I suggest. You want to basically set up the emotions of the goal and just overall emotions of the story, and have that carry the story instead of having just the story and the writing itself carry itself to the end, which I think is a bad idea in some cases. Act 2, confrontation. You want somehow, some way to already be some way to be kind of or already established in the idea that now the character is struggling and there's someone or something in their way. And then conclusion, just depending on your story, it can be good or bad. It doesn't always have to be good. So that is my tips, or those are my tips. Hope you liked it. Just overall, just get started. Just get started. The way how I like to think of it, the way how I like to think of writing in general, for a lot of people that are having a hard time starting, treat it like some kind of impulse, like you can't control yourself, or treat it like it's something that society looks down on, or people like don't want you to do, or think of it as something like illegal, anything that will make you like go, oh, that makes me just want to do it more. Because you know how when you're a kid and you're told by your parents you can't have candy or you can't have this much candy, but because they told you couldn't do that, and because you knew, oh yeah, you knew there was consequences, but for some reason that makes you want to do it more. I mean, if you have to think of it like that, think of it like that. So, but yeah, just get started though. Because if you don't get started, you won't ever get a story out. So, that's my video, and welcome to the circus.